All right, today we're going to be continuing The White Stallions of Lipizza, Chapter 19, The Four-Legged Professor. Hans had almost despised of ever speaking to Colonel Podchowski again when the stablemaster tapped him on the shoulder one early morning. "Quickly, go and wash. Put on a clean uniform. Herr Hofrat is summoning all the apprentices to the riding hall, sharp at 7. Hans and Kurt almost collided running upstairs. They dressed in a fervor. When Hans polished shoes for both, Kurt sewed missing buttons and ripped seams. They took turns washing and combing before the tiny mirror, then went rattling down the steps as if the building were afire. Promptly, they fell into line with the other apprentices. There were 6 in all. Being the oldest, Kurt led the procession. Hans brought up the rear. Here are the apprentices. Like foot soldiers, they marched, step in step, across the street to the riding hall. Hans took a quick sidelong glance at the spot where he and Rosie used to watch daily for the Lipizza. She and Jacques were there now, first in the line of traffic, waiting for the stallions to go by. Without turning his head, Hans waved to them by moving the fingers of one hand. Clop, 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 clop. The boys' boots made clumping sounds on the cobbles. To Hans, they echoed the pounding of his heart. In single file, the little company marched through the horses' entrance, through the anteroom where the horses were mounted, and into the riding hall. Just as the bells of St. Michael's were charming 7, the austere figure of Colonel Podchowski emerged from the side entrance. He strode briskly to meet the boys and nodded formally as they lined up in front of it. "Good morning," he said, a smile softening his face. "Good morning," 6 voices murmured in unison. Again, Hans was aware of the driving intensity of the man. He was aware, too, of a warmth that radiated through him. He felt the dark eyes probing him as if no one else were in the room, just the 2 of them. "Young learners," the colonel's voice sounded deep and resonant, as if the earth spoke. "I hope someday to be addressing you as rider candidates, and later as full-fledged riding masters. Meanwhile, your days of apprenticeship mark an epoch in your life. Here in the Spanish Ritschstuhl," he said slowly, thoughtfully, "the great art of classical riding is brought to its highest perfection. The art is a 2,000-year-old heritage which has come down to us from Greece, Spain, Italy, and of course, France." He spoke now with a kind of urgency. "Our ritual is a tiny candle in the big world. Our duty, our privilege, is to keep it burning. Surely if we can send out one beam of splendor, of glory, of elegance into this torn and troubled world, that would be worth a man's life, no?" He stopped and waited in silence. No one said a word. Hans nodded in solemn agreement. "I congratulate you on your choice of a career," the colonel went on. "But can you meet the challenge? How deep and passionate is your love for your profession and toward the noble creatures entrusted to you?" Again he stopped and waited, and again no one said a word. "To learn this fine art," he resumed, "requires absolute mastery over body, heart, and mind. We must test the young stallions for character and stamina, and we test apprentices for these same qualities." He took a breath. "This morning each of you will be assigned 2 professors. The first will be a senior riding master who knows the strong and weak points of your horse and will be able to give you the right instruction at the right moment. The second," he gazed intently from boy to boy, "will be a 4-legged professor. The youngest apprentices will be given the oldest stallions to ride." Hans's heart turned a somersault. That would mean Barina for him. "Let me warn you, however, that your 4-footed professor takes his role very seriously, and his teaching methods are not always a joy to his pupils." He paused. "It is a nice coincidence that there are 6 of you and that we have 6 teacher stallions, each a member of a different dynasty." He began telling them off on his fingers. Pluto, Conversano, Napolitano, Favoroi, Siglave, and Maitoso. The names crackled in the stillness of the hall. It was strange how the mere mention of one name could make Hans tremble. His mind raced ahead. He saw in a flash Barina teaching him the corbeille. How quickly he would learn in 1 lesson or 2 lessons. He saw himself in the saddle, erect as a carven image, giving the signals with such skill that Barina again became the champion courbateur of the world. The colonel interrupted Hans's vision. "There was once a wise horsemaster, Antoine de Pulvinel, whose holiest commandment was, 'Be miserly with punishment and generous with rewards.' But I'm getting ahead of myself. What all of you want to know, what everyone wants to know, is the mysterious language between horse and rider. Namely, what signals are given to inspire the stallions to perform their wonderful feats above the ground." An audible sigh traveled down the line as 6 young men waited, all senses alert. "Ah, my children, those aids," the colonel said almost mischievously, "must remain a mystery for now. You see, in many ways, you are like the Lipizza. Their training takes an average of 5 years. Yours will take no less. 5 years. 5 years! Hans felt the heavy finality of the words. They were like a physical weight on his head and shoulders. On the way back to the stables, they rang in his ears like a bell that would not stop tolling. That's so long, he cried and sighed. Why, it's forever. Do you think 5 years is forever?
No.
Seems like a long time to Hans.
I think 1 year is forever.